Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload, I'll probably make two videos today. The first one about this ongoing system in the southern United States, and then a second video about the second phase of the storm across the central part of the country and the northeast. And there's a lot of talk about, unfortunately, quite a bit of damage. A destructive ice storm is occurring, and you're probably reading the title and you're a bit away, taken away by the wording I choose, destructive. You may be thinking, oh, it's just snow, get over it, right? Well, the snow is very heavy and very wet, and it's pretty early on, but that's not really the main case why I use the word destructive. There are like heavy ice amounts across Oklahoma and Kansas, and it will continue to fall. And ice is definitely the worst type of precipitation in terms of damage. But without further ado, if you guys do find any of this information, I say useful or somewhat entertaining, I don't know how this video may be entertaining, but some people just like the weather. So if you do enjoy that type of stuff, consider subscribing. I do like my best job I can in terms of weather. And if you are a returning viewer, liking the video is also amazing. Otherwise, let's get into this without wasting time. So let's start off by looking at the GFS. Let's start off by looking at the HER model. I want to look at the high resolution models first. This one goes out to 18 hours, and you can see we have ice right now really blowing up, dying down across portions of Kansas and Oklahoma. It's been ongoing for much of the early morning and now pushing into the noon hours. And it will continue for the next several hours. However, as I mentioned, the rates are diminishing, and we will see this current wave start to go away, but another resurgence of moisture is likely this evening. So this late afternoon into early evening hours will begin and go into the overnight hours, and it may just put insult to injury, if you will. So a lot of these locations got a ton of ice, right? Portions of Kansas, Oklahoma. There's quite a bit of snow across New Mexico that fell, and it's still falling. And while this looks pretty disorganized right here, and not typical of a destructive system, again, this is ice, which is the worst type of precipitation, and it takes just a little bit to make a very bad situation. And let's continue this. So right now we are looking at around the time as I'm recording this, so 11, 12 o'clock in the early morning to early afternoon, or late morning, early afternoon. And as we push this forward into hour 2, so this is at around now 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, and this is all Central Standard Time. I'm pretty sure it is. But I've adjusted over the years to basically seeing 18Z as 2 o'clock with the Central Standard Time. So if you live in the Northeast, this will be 3 o'clock. If you live across the California area, the West, coastal areas, the West Coast, this will be around 2, so 12 o'clock. I think they're 2 hours behind. Notice this is now again 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4, 5. So not a lot going on in this afternoon in particular. Where it is raining right now, the freezing rain, it will continue doing so, but again, dying down. But at around the late evening hours, so 7, this is now 7, 8, 9, we see a little area of precip starting to develop in southwestern Texas, and this continues to explode, if you will, into, this is now 2 o'clock in the morning Wednesday, and early Wednesday morning, so some folks may be still up for late Tuesday. I know I sit up till around 1 or 2 each day, not because it's my choice, and definitely not the best choice, but it's just my sleeping schedule as of now. But notice that we see lots of freezing rain and sleet, really mainly dominating freezing rain, especially at the beginning. Not that much sleet, and freezing rain is definitely the worst of the type. Sleet is more of a kind of like a frozen rainbow, if you will. If you look up some images, you'll see it. And a freezing rain just falls as rain, but the surface is so cold that the rain freezes on contact and forms ice. So notice that as we push this forward, we see these little bands of convective precipitation forming, indicating very heavy rates of snow and rain. This is now 15Z. It goes only out to 18 hours because it's a short-range model. It sacrifices its long-term for its short-term, or for its accuracy. And notice that as we now, every 6 hours, however, it does go out to 36 hours. So I just went a few model runs back, and let's see how this unfolds. Notice we have that precipitation, quite a bit of freezing rain now, centered more across the western areas, or a bit further to the west, the Texas Panhandle, and really just quite a bit west of Oklahoma City, while the earlier event was centered just really right over Oklahoma City. Notice that as we push this forward, lots of heavy snow with this. This snow doesn't look to be maybe impressive in terms of size, but it's falling at a very heavy rate, and if it falls for a few hours, that could accumulate quite a bit of inches. And notice we in general just start seeing precipitation rise from the south into the northern, towards the north into the mid-south, and towards the Ozarks and the Ohio Valley, the Ohio River Valley. And as that continues to do so, we also see Hurricane Zeta or Tropical Storm Zeta, depending on the strength. At this point, it seems to be a weak hurricane at landfall, and notice that that will also bring in additional moisture. So it's almost like a moisture heaven. I think that's what the Weather Channel described it as. And that's true. I mean, we have a winter storm going on with already lots of precip and a hurricane with the tropics. So notice at this point now, this is 2 o'clock in the afternoon Wednesday. This snow is still going hard. And this is now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock. So by then, things will thankfully start winding down, but only start picking up for the second phase of the storm, which is this giant storm that could be hitting the coastal northeast, or really just the northeast and southeastern Canada, not just the coastal areas. In terms of snowfall, let's take a glance at this. Notice that the areas that do see the snow are going to be seeing quite a good dose of that snow. Definitely. Sorry about this. My mouse is a bit spazzing out. I want to zoom in on these snowfall amounts so you can get a better look at this. These snowfall amounts where it does snow will be very heavy. Portions of the Panhandle seeing almost a foot in some locations. I think this will be a bit more widespread than this model shows. I think there will be a bit more snow with this. If we look at a different high resolution model, this is a NAM 12KM. You can see it shows it more widespread. While a lot of this is shown as snow, this will be falling as freezing rain. But anything west of this location, I would say right here, that maybe that first line of those 4-5 sets of counties in the Panhandle will be all snow. And let's take a look at the NAM 3KM. You can see very similar amounts to the NAM 12KM. They are in the same family, so that makes sense. Kind of like sharing the same genes, if you will. And let's see what the NAM 3KM shows, but in terms of the radar, precipitation, and frozen. So what I did with the HER model, I'll just do with the NAM 3KM. So this is what it looks like. Sorry about that squeakiness. And this is what this is what the model looks like as of now, showing this precipitation. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2, 3, 4. So the NAM 3KM sticks this ice and freezing rain around for a bit more of a longer time, if you will, but definitely not good news. It has a bit more sleet mixing in, which is good news because that limits the freezing rain, which is worse, undoubtedly. And then we see a lull in the precipitation, so kind of like a break. And across south, well, depends where you live, across Mexico, or even northern Mexico, southwestern Texas, and New Mexico, there is continuous snow across Texas, Oklahoma, and into portions of northwest Arkansas, southeastern Kansas, and Missouri. The rain continues, and then it resurges in the evening hours, late evening hours, early morning hours of Wednesday. We see the precipitation resurge, and this could be going on for quite a while with the snowfall rates very heavily falling. And again, look at that. Very impressive precip rates just in terms of the regular rain. And lots of moisture. And look at that. It keeps going here even as late as early, or as late as late tomorrow. Tomorrow in the evening hours, it could still be going on. Here we have our hurricane, and this thing all moves into the northeast, and stuff looks definitely interesting for the northeast. We'll have to see what happens as a result of that. I'll make a separate video. You can see just a huge area of pretty moderate to heavy precipitation moving across the central United States and then pushing into the northeast. And whether or not this transitions into snow and how quickly will determine the snow amounts. If you look at the NAM 12KM, the model I showed you earlier here, you can see it turns it into snow, but not by a whole lot of a margin. And really, the models have trended towards that, where there's just a brief little kind of mention of the snow now. Even the GFS parallel, they do show snow, so even cities like New York City may be getting some snow falling. It's just not as impressive amounts. But again, we'll have to see what the new model runs coming in with like the European in a few hours. National Weather Service, in terms of going back to this storm, staying away from the northeast system, as I'll make a separate video about that. Again, look at that. Those are ice storm warnings. A crippling ice storm is going on, and additional ice accumulations, they're showing between a quarter and a half inch, and this is additional, right? So you can see they say damaging ice storm right there. So this isn't just me overhyping this thing. This is me basically relaying what the National Weather Service is directly showing in their forecast. A quarter to half an inch of ice is alone pretty devastating, and on top of some of those locations that are already seen a ton of that ice. Doesn't look good. Thankfully, the temperatures do rebound pretty quickly, so the ice will melt relatively easily. But you could still see a lot of these locations under the ice storm warning. Oklahoma City, Clinton, all those locations in Oklahoma and Kansas and portions of Texas are under ice storm warnings. And apparently there's no ice storm warning anymore at this point in Kansas, but there were earlier. In terms of the panhandle of Texas, you could see they're mainly going to be dealing with the snowy side, though sleet definitely will be mixing in, and a bit of freezing rain. So this is the forecast for today. Less than an inch, 1 to 2 inches as you get further to the southwest. But then we get that burst of snow, and you can see 3 to 4 to 6 inches are going to be most likely occurring. This is the measured snowfall this AM, so you can see quite a bit of differencing. Amarillo 1.5, a bit further to the north, 3, 4, and then just by the border with New Mexico, we see 7, 8 inches. And New Mexico is also under a winter storm, a warning still, precipitation outlook. There's these forecast snow totals, additional snow totals, and they are still very significant, 3 to 4 inches additionally across Albuquerque. That is on top of what you've already seen, which has been quite a bit. So definitely a rather unusual event to see an ice storm across Oklahoma and Texas. This late in this, or this early in the season, late October. While it's an ice storm is not unusual for especially Oklahoma and Texas. They are pretty well known for their ice storms. They usually don't see it this early on, but again, every year is a bit different. And in terms of the hurricane, you can see that there is obviously a lot of updates. They have it as a hurricane right before landfall. So for this, go to your National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center, and NOAA for the best updates on that. I'd rather talk about this winter storm than the hurricane, as that is a bit more of a serious threat. And I don't want to undermine the ice storm's threat, right? But usually hurricanes are just taken with more caution and should be taken with more caution. And if we were to look at some of the snowfall reports, this isn't ice but just snow, for the past 72 hours, you could see that a whole good chunk of the United States got their first snow and quite a bit of snow. I think that the highest location we have on here is 28.3 in Cherokee Park, Colorado, which I don't know exactly where that is. Maybe if I click on this, it will. Okay, there we go. So we zoom out right there, you can see across portions of northern Colorado, we got almost 30 inches of snow. And again, this storm had a lot of potential, and it definitely lived up to it. Lots of heavy snow fell across Nebraska. You can see 12, 10-inch amounts plus. And then same thing with South Dakota, generally tapering as you push further towards the east, towards Iowa and Minnesota, but still, even across Iowa, some locations seeing 6 inches plus, and many locations seeing between 2 and 5 inches of snow. South Dakota, again, more locations seeing upwards of a foot. Then several locations did see their first snow flakes or snow showers right there in Missouri. I know that Chicago did for the first time. You could see 3/10, 7/10 of an inch, and in Wichita, 1 to 2 inches, 3 inches. Many of these locations saw pretty heavy pretty heavy icing event, not really snow. You can see there's 1 inch of snow right there that fell today. More snow across Texas, but New Mexico also racking in those heavy snow totals. Albuquerque's official right there. I don't know if that's official one, but that's pretty darn close. 11 inches. So that is definitely a lot of snow to come, especially at any time of the year, but especially in October. And I pulled up the power outage map here, and you can see that Texas and Oklahoma definitely stand out. California also does have quite a bit because of the wildfire situation and the strong winds. You could see 200,000 out of 11, almost 12 million that are reporting. And Texas is 16,000 out of 12 million, so not that much. But then look at Oklahoma, out of 1.5 million. reporting almost 300,000 are out of power, which has been increasing throughout the day, and that's a huge fraction of the total reporting compared to California, where it's a similar amount, a bit less, but it's out of 11 million. Here's only a million, so a lot of areas getting pretty well destroyed by this outages. Damage will be widespread, so hopefully you guys stay safe. And this will be probably my last video about this storm, but go to your National Weather Service and all your other offices and weather sources. And again, stay safe, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.